Hi friends, it's Becky, and when I opened up this curated bead box, this is the December curated bead box, I immediately wanted to use this pendant to make a necklace, and so I didn't have the time or energy to do that when I opened it. So I've spent some time tonight putting together some beaded links that I'm going to put together with you to turn into a necklace. For the most part, everything that I'm using for this project came in this bead box, including these jump rings that I'm using, the lobster clasp, the these bead caps. I'm using the white gemstone as well as these turquoise beads. And then from the two bead mixes, I grabbed these little white rounds and these turquoise rondelles as well, and that was from the two bead mixes that were in this box. I'm gonna do a couple of earrings as well to go with it, so I've got some head pins and some ear wires for that. And then I did add some 20 gauge craft wire to make these links with, and I'm using just my bail making pliers. I just wanted to use a consistent loop for all of this. You can also use round nose pliers and just use the same part of the round nose pliers when you do it. But this is how I've been making my loops on my links, and I'll just show you with the two different links that I've made. I saved some beads to be able to make those with, and then I've got some round nose pliers, and then some flush cutters, and then some double flush cutters so that I can cut things. I've also got another pair of pliers to hold one side of the jump rings when I'm opening and closing them. And that's pretty much all that I've got going on with this necklace. So let me show you how I've been making these links. I wanted to have some longer links and some shorter links. So because this is a very long pendant, I wanted proportionally to have a fairly long link that would be still shorter than it, but not that much shorter. And then I wanted another shorter link as well to go with it, and so they're going to be going like that. And with this link, I've got 3 of the turquoise rounds, a bead cap, the white gemstone, this is an 8mm gemstone, a bead cap, and then 3 turquoise rounds. And so to make the links, I'm putting the beads onto my wire while it's still on my spool. And I'm just straightening it with my fingers and also warming it up real quick. So I'm just going to put on 3 of these turquoise rounds. 1, 2, 3. 1 of the bead caps, and I'm making it so the bead cap, the curvy part of the bead cap, faces towards the turquoise beads and away from the white gemstone. And then I'm going to mirror that with another bead cap and 3 more of these turquoise beads. So now that I've got that on there, I'll make my first loop. I'm just going to take my wire and put it right there in my bail making pliers. And I'm using the smallest loop of my bail making pliers right here. And I'm just twisting that around until it makes a loop and touches the other side. And I want to make a little bend back to center my loop. And I like to, at this point, use my chain nose pliers, or any flat nose pliers would work, in order to smush that little loop and help work harden it. Then I push my beads up here so that I can measure from the bottom of the bead to the bottom of my finger, and I can cut that wire. And then to make my second loop, I'm going to hold my wire and then use my finger. You can also use chain nose pliers to do the same thing, but I'm just going to bend it over here at a 90-degree angle, and then measure against my finger to get 1/4 of an inch or 1 centimeter. And then I'm going to roll up this wire using that same loop here on the other side. And I'm going to give it a little smush. Smushing the wire helps to work harden it, so it's less likely to deform. And that's how I made these links. And I've made 6 total for this project, and I will make 4 total of these smaller links. So let's do the smaller link. I'm going to go a little bit faster on this one because I've just shown you how I make the link. It's going to be exactly the same using these same simple loops, and I'm putting on one of these white rounds, these white frosted rounds that came in the bead mix, and I'm going to put on one of these silver bead caps, and again the rounded part of the bead cap, the inner curve part, that's going to be facing towards these rounds, and then 3 of these turquoise rondelles that were in the other bead mix, and another bead cap. You can see how it's turned up there towards this round, like that. Now let's make ourselves some loops, twist it around, and then balance it with a little bit of a bend. Give it a smush to strengthen it. Cut that off the wire. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a bend right there. And then we're just going to roll that up. That's actually a little too long, I think. Let's nip that a little bit smaller. There we go. That's a better size for that loop. So now I've got these. I've already attached one end of my necklace together using these jump rings. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these all together. I'm going to have these shorter ones on each end, and then in between my longer ones like that. Once again, you'll want to use 2 pliers in order to open up the jump rings, or you can use one of the jump ring opening tools. Anything that will help you hold part of the jump ring steady while you twist it open like that. And then twist it closed. Make sure it's good and closed. There we go. And one of the reasons I'm using jump rings is for ease of putting it together. I could link these links to each other by opening and closing my simple loops, but I also want there to be a little more articulation between these links, especially since I have such long links going on with this. It's just going to give me a better flow. Like shorter links you can get away with having them attached to each other, but because it's so much longer, the jump rings are going to give it a bit of a better drape. more articulation. It'll be chainier, which is just a word that I made up, but we're going to pretend it's a real word. And these are the jump rings that came in the bead box. Like I said, when I opened it, it comes with pretty much everything that you need to make jewelry with. The only thing I'm adding here is that craft wire. It does not come with craft wire. You could string these beads on some beading wire instead. Probably in the same order. You wouldn't need as many jump rings for that though. All right. Now, I am going to swing open this simple loop here at one end of this and attach it to the pendant. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this end. It doesn't matter which end I attach. They're mirrored to each other, so they'll be in the same order no matter what. I'm going to attach this one also to the pendant. And then I'm going to use another jump ring to attach this lobster clasp. And I like to make sure that the lobster clasps work. I actually recently was reminded of why I like to do that, and it's because one of the clasps that came in a kit that I had paid for, when I went to go use it, it did not work. Like the spring was broken or something, so I had to toss it and use another one from my stash. And that's why before I attach it to anything, I like to just give it a little, does it work? Is it going to be a good lobster clasp for me or not? Test. Most of the time it does work, but you know, it's happened, I think that would make the third time in like several years of trying that it did not work. All right, so there we go. We have a necklace, and I'm just going to make some earrings real quick to go with it. And I'm going to do that with the, just straightening out the head pins. There were some head pins that came in the box as well. So I've got a couple of the white gemstones. I have several of these rondelles, and there were two of these, which is basically like the bead caps. They're kind of smushed together, and I don't want to mess with trying to separate them, but they make almost like a spacer bead with those two ends facing each other like that. So I'm just going to use those as a spacer on here by putting one of these gemstone beads on the bottom, dropping one of these bead caps slash spacers on there, and then 3 of these rondelles right above it. And for this, I'm actually going to use my pliers to bend it because it's not as malleable as this wire was. And then cut it. And it's the same measurement with my finger that I was doing for that. And then roll this wire up to make a simple loop with that head pin, like that, and then attach it to an ear wire. And these ear wires also came in the bead box. So I could probably go ahead and do that second one now. Just gonna stack those beads on here. This is kind of like a combination between each of the different links. So it mostly goes. This was the Iced Crystals Curated Bead Box, and I just had opened it. I'll put a link to my unboxing in the description below if you would like to check that out and see what else came in it. There's some really pretty purple beads that came in here too that I think would be a lot of fun to use for things, but there we go. Yeah, necklace and earrings, just a little bit of a little mini set. Not gonna do a bracelet or anything today, but that was a pretty fun one actually, putting this together. Anyway, I will put a link in the description below of both where you can find the Curated Bead Box and my unboxings, and hope you are having a great week. I'll talk to you later. Happy beading.